Good evening, everybody. How is it going? Uh, this is Anime Analyst US. I'm your host, Thomas Fry.
And I'm your co-host Hasnan Zedi.
And tonight we are going to redo our vodcast of solo leveling. So tonight we'll be on that. But let's get some housework done. This is a reshoot of episode 54. The first one got pulled down and was scrapped for other reasons, and we want to bring the best show we possibly can to you. So we are reshooting the whole thing from the beginning because we do this live. So when so many mistakes are made or so many issues you have, we have no choice but to reshoot. Most of the time we won't do it, but solo leveling is an important one. We got a big announcement going on with solo leveling tonight. Also on the agenda we need to talk about is we are now doing Anime Analyst 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We are always trying to bring you a better show, and we want to do the best that we can. And right now, even though it's a YouTube show, we still have to work. And both of us work full time, so that's 40 hours a week. And this show was taking 40 hours a week each to produce this show. And, you know, it kind of tires someone out when you do that. I mean, we cranked out almost 80 videos in, under 45 days. So we have to cut back a little bit on that. So what we did is we figured we'll give you a better show. We'll raise the quality instead of the quantity. And hopefully you'll enjoy the show. We can talk a little bit more about it. We can have a better show for you and going deeper into conversation about each event. So anyway, tonight is solo leveling, and that one. Oh, I got the right button this time. All right. So let's start at the beginning. My overall of solo leveling is I thought this was an awesome video. They took their time, and the illustrations on this are really good. And if you've read the manga, which I read a couple pages of it, I'm not a big manga fan, but I'm a huge anime fan. So I like it when they convert it. And everyone I talked to that read the manga, they said they did a good job. They didn't stray from the story, and they stuck with the same thing. Anytime you move something from paper to video, you're going to lose a little bit because you can define it a lot better on the paper, and you can take your time. You can take a year to produce a book. When you're doing an anime, because of so many people are involved, it takes 50 to 75 people to create one anime. You can't take 2 years to make it. You have to make it, and the people that pay the bills, everything's a business anymore. So anyway, with all that in mind, they did a really good job. They stuck to the story. When I was watching it, I had no problem following along. I had no problem putting myself in his shoes, and you could feel where the story was going. You understood. You could see his struggles. You could see his his joys, his excitement on it. I'm just really happy with it. Where'd you come at in this?
Okay, so I have a misconception when I started watching it. I thought like it is like going to be something like the anime Gate, but it changed like very quickly, like because they have some portals came into the world, but like this was completely different from that thing. So I was wrong on that part. But this was a nice story. Animation was good, and the same person like they he also has like what do you think like how do you bring your stats like if I have that option I will do it equally, but he's putting all the stats on.
See, I kind of agree with him. I would have put a little more into the intelligence side because that's where the MP comes from. That's where you get your, and if you have HP and MP gauge, and so you got agility, vitality, strength, and it just even is a safe way to go. But you're not gonna. If he would have done that in this, he would have never made it. I mean, the fights that he had to endure in the beginning, he was fighting, being a D maybe C ranker right in the beginning, fighting an A rank boss. If he wouldn't have put all that stuff in strength and agility, he would not have won that. It and also, speaking of where he was putting stuff, I always like to read other reviews. I want to, what are the masses saying about what they see, and what do they think of this, and that way I can kind of put it in perspective. And man, I really got lost on some of these. I had to give up because they were talking like he had a harem, and the one said the girls were dropping their panties for him. There is no love in Solo Leveling. It's a fighting story. It's about a kid that was.
I think he must took that part when he was in the hospital and his body started to change and the nurses were started talking about him. But that's just like
They
three,
were,
4 seconds. Like,
yeah, they were
but
ogling him. They
uh,
wasn't.
there was another scene from the hospital, and I think like this was my favorite scene when the two, I think B class um, guys come visit him like after they found him, and when they left, and he said like, why they didn't ask me about these screens? Like,
Well, yeah, and in the later episodes, and I'm not talking about the story here. I'm talking the second story that they were showing the White Tiger Guild and the bosses talking back and forth, and he goes, I'm kind of would be excited if somebody would be born in the world that could basically break all the rules and show a whole new strength pattern. Well, that's what we're seeing with Solo Leveling. Jinwoo he's the one. He can build as he goes. He can build his strength. Every time he does a fight, he gets stronger. That's the typical way that they do it on the classes. In this story where you're born with what you got and that's it, that's really not used a lot when you're talking about a story when you're developing a typical anime or something like that, because in the gaming world where a lot of this stuff is associated with, and this is absolutely he is associated with like the gaming world, but the rest of the world is not. They get what they're born with, and that's it. All you can do is strengthen your mind by reading, or strengthen your body by working out, and that's all the stronger you can. You have to add more people. You can't grow. So with him being able to grow, that hopefully that would bleed over into the rest of the rest of the world. That the new fighters that come after him, or the new adventurers that come after him, would then be able to grow. That would be nice. I mean, I don't know where the story goes. We've only seen 12 episodes, so we only see a snippet of the whole story. But in what we're seeing, I mean, I loved watching it. I mean, I was on the edge of my seat. There was no at no point through all 12 episodes did I stop, go do something else, come back and turn it on, which I've done in a lot of anime. I was excited. I wanted to see what was next. It left you on the edge of your seat the entire time. It's like, what do I get to see? What's he do next? Can he win this fight? I liked how they took the one. He goes through a tough time where they're gonna kill him, and the first time he has to kill a human, and he makes it through that, and then they take a page out of his book, only do it a more human way. They weren't killing humans. They just left him outside. He can go in there and clear the whole thing himself. I liked how they did that. Do you think they they should have took that girl in. You know that girl was wanting to go in that dungeon. I mean, the way she was looking at him, at least that's what I got from that scene.
But I think like she was not ready to go because
Oh, well, no,
like
she
yeah,
wasn't ready, but I'm just saying she had that look on her face that, was saying, I want to go in. And when they had, when the camera was panned on her and when them two went in the C rank dungeon they were going in, she had that look on her face that, I want to go. I guess you could say it was a look of envy. I don't know how they worked that to get that to come out that way. That director did an awesome job to be able to push human emotions onto the viewers like they did in this. If you look at the whole thing, Solo Leveling is a basic story. I mean, it's 12 episodes, but it's not a huge story. It's not like you have, in Trinity 7 or, that time I was reincarnated as a slime or anything. You don't have a major plot where you have, hundreds of people involved. You've got, 10 characters in the whole thing? It's a basic one guy, goes into one, gets his whole body reset from a mysterious second dungeon that pops up, and then he starts fighting to build himself up. I mean, that's every other anime that you watch. It's like they throw in a whole bunch of other stuff, where this one, they kind of stripped it down to the basics. And, how is this guy going to struggle in the beginning of trying to, having to do something completely different from everyone else in the world? It's going to make him a little, I don't know about you, but that'd make me a little anxious if all of a sudden I got to learn something. He has no one to go to ask for help. These screens are popping up that nobody else can see them. So nobody else can see the struggle that he's going through. They just see the outside effects from it. And then, of course, one of the bigger guilds is going to come in and try to swoop this guy up. Not, only being able... The one guy, I forget the character's name, where he goes in and tries to recruit him for the White Tiger Guild. He realizes, yeah, this guy's, he's had a second awakening. He's getting stronger. He realized it. But it didn't work. He did I thought that whole scene, it reminds me of, I don't know the name of the restaurant they used, but it reminds me of a Denny's, because nobody goes to Denny's to eat, but they go to sit down to have coffee and talk about stuff. I can't tell you how many deals I made sitting down at a Denny's, and the food's horrible, but they're around and everybody knows them. So it was, it's like saying, hey, meet me at a Walmart. So, all right, let's get on. You know what? We're about halfway through, so let's go ahead and do the announcement. And the announcement tonight that we're going to do is right there. Season 2 is coming. It is called Arise from the Shadow. And I can't wait. It's coming out the winter session, which is sometime in January. So we won't have to wait long to start. And it says it's going to pick up right where it left off. So we can look forward to seeing the next phase of what he has to go through. And the stats are hanging out. I don't know if you've noticed, but the rankings on this anime they're doing really good with this anime. It's carrying an 8.28. It's ranked 290th. Anything, like we say, anything in the top 500 is a really good anime. You can count on it. There's going to be, it's going to hit all the aspects that we look for to whether we can say it's a good anime or not. It's even got a good popularity ranking, and it's got almost 800,000 members in the fan club on one site. And it has its own Twitter in English and in Japanese. It has its own. It's got
Can
several.
you bring the image number 6? I think
Yep,
that will explain the next season, like why they have arise from the shadow.
your number
Like
6 is up.
in the last scene when we see like when he get to the new skill, I think what is called. I think I'm going to lose it in the pronunciation where they bring the dead
He,
people to necromancy. I think.
oh yeah. Well, no, he becomes. He started. He got necromancy as a second class, but when they calculated all the bonuses in, he blew out that class and become a shadow monarch.
And I like how he let his 11 knights go to bring up this main guy to rise, and he tried like, and I think they developed a character really beautifully. Like he find the solution. Like from the episode 2, like they were stuck in the dungeon, and there were statues, and he was looking for the answers. And like if a normal guy tried for 3 times, I think he'll fail because he don't know like what's happening. But the way he in the last, like he asked him like you are waiting for a fallen king and you're going to sit here, and then when
Yeah,
he tried.
he very smart. I mean, I'm an. I like the adventures. I like to go. I like to figure things out. There's not a lot of people in this world, but there is a pretty good percentage. But he was very smart. He looked at the rules and thought about, well, I'm standing here. What can I do right here, right now, with what I have to follow these rules? That was very amazing how quick he figured that out. He wasn't even the only one, but they were two. Everyone started freaking out so fast rather than keeping their cool. You know, if you're an adventurer, you have to stay calm. You know that's true in any profession, anything that where you go and you're on some type of adventure, and it doesn't matter if it's your job or if you're just out playing around. You need to be able to look at your environment and figure it out. And this kid, smart, but they didn't. I don't know if you noticed this. They didn't have him figure everything out. They let some of the other people figure things out, which that was I thought that was so smart to do that by not, because I don't know how many we see it all the time. You know, the guy starts off, he's a loser, he's kicked. By the third episode, he's got godlike powers and nothing ever goes wrong, and then he just goes and beats everybody up and he's a winner. They didn't do that in Solo Leveling. You know, when he was in there, yeah, he figured a lot out, but he didn't just figure it all out and then poof, he's the one that stayed behind and got killed. Now, they all left, so they don't know that, you know, that's what happened.
Yeah, I was like I didn't understand. Like he figured it out. Like the guys who was leaving, like it's a trap. Like you cannot leave. You have to stay in the circle. But the guys he helped to escape, they lived. Like if
Yeah.
so,
Well,
like
with the timer, when they did it, I don't know how much you, uh, have you ever played RPG games?
yes,
Okay. That center thing was for that scene was it gave you the clock, it gave you the countdown, it also gave you the clues by the door starting to close a little bit at a time. As long as those, you know, as long as you, if everyone would have stayed there and stared and looked where they were supposed to, that clock would have wound down, the doors would have stayed open, they all would have left. But because they started freaking out, running towards the door, every time someone ran out, it closed the door a little more to where, you know, I believe that the whole thing of Solo Leveling is these gods or whoever set this room up, they needed someone that they could build up, that they could make go through all this stuff. They picked, you know, because he was the smartest one and also the last one there, he lost his leg, he couldn't get out. That's the man they got to power up and, you know, try to make him. Obviously, something's coming, and the people that control all this know that, and they need a powerful guy, so they set a trap, see who'd, you know, stay in it, and power this guy up. Let's see if we can make him strong enough to do what we need to do. That's what I got out of the whole thing. Now do you think this guild that they're trying to build, with them doing all these dungeons and they're raiding all this, do you think they'll get that guild built?
I don't think so because I think the main character he's on his own. Like the way he's progressing, like nobody else is progressing. Like when he got the offer for 30 billion to join the guild and do like 19 more
Right.
adventures, he straightforward refused. Like he said like he don't because he's at something after, like he's not even going for the money.
Well, I mean, yeah, he did. I mean, he took the 30 billion. I mean, he was working for. They had done 4 or 5 dungeons at that point, and then he got that reclass right there at the end, and that was all we saw. Now we don't know. He's done with the reclass now, so I would assume they're going to go back in season 2 and start doing these dungeons and finish the 20 dungeons where he was promised the building. Because I'm not sure how all that works on the thing. That would probably be explained in the manga where you have the whole story beginning to end. But there's I mean, your imagination can let it take you from where it goes. But I am looking forward to see how they play that story out. Because obviously by the time they get done doing all these dungeons, he will be either as powerful or more powerful than S-Class. So he could be the dungeon master himself of this guild they're trying to build with his ability of powering up. I can't wait till season 2 comes out. I mean, I'm looking forward, but at the speed they go, I don't know if they'll get that far in the story, but I tell you what, I'm almost ready to, once season 2 is done, I'll pick up a manga to see if I can see how, what's the next step on the story. Like I said, I like this anime. I highly recommend this anime. But it is a little gory. It is a little, there are some hard scenes for delicate people. I gotta say this right now, I may get in trouble for it, but a lot of you people that wrote reviews on a certain website, you need to rewatch that so you can figure out, because some of that stuff was so far off of left field, I literally had to stop thinking them or it would mess up my way of doing the review for this show, because they were just, this was not a harem. It is the whole thing was meant to be around one person, and the reason that they have to show the talk from the other guild is so you understand, how the whole thing works. They're explaining the world, if you're paying attention, of how everything works while he's going through and doing his fighting. I love how they put these sub little stories in and get extra explanation for you to understand what's going on instead of just having the story, and most of the time they use flashbacks. Well, they don't use flashbacks in Solo. They use a different method. And it's worth checking out. I actually think I would like to see if they do a good job on season 2 as they did on season 1. I think this score will end up going up. It will gain value on this anime. So how about if we call it there for the day? We were talking about this before. This is the 23 anime everyone should have watched in 2023. Now, we are still going to do that, whether or not we do the whole list or not, because we've cut down to 3 shows a week. We may just do like the top 10 of that list, but make the list available on our channel. But we will be doing something with this. It'll start November 7th. November 11th. So check it out. Our vodcast I'm looking forward to doing this because there were a lot of good anime in 2023, and we started the show too late to talk about them. So we got to go back and catch them because there's some really good ones that were from, that close. So check them out. We will see you guys on Monday. We'll be back here with another anime for us to talk about. And I don't have my calendar open, so we'll look on our Twitter site. We'll post it shortly after the show of what we're doing on Monday. But come check it out anyway. So, and do not forget to like, subscribe, and share. Please tell everybody about us. We're trying to build into a really good review show. We're trying our hardest. So hang out with us and let's talk about anime.